I didn't find out my sister got married the way most people do. There was no invitation, no phone call, no awkward family dinner where someone pretends it's casual while watching your reaction. I found out the way you find out you've been erased. Through a text message. That morning started like any other. I was standing in my kitchen, waiting for coffee to finish dripping, staring at emails I didn't feel like answering. Work deadlines, reminders, bills, ordinary things, safe things. I hadn't heard much from my younger sister, Liana, in weeks. That wasn't unusual. She had always moved through life in bursts, intense attention when she needed something, silence when she didn't. Still, something about it felt different this time. Too quiet, too clean. So I typed a simple message. Hey, did you ever decide on a wedding date? I didn't expect an immediate response. I expected vague deflection, maybe a joke. Instead, her reply came almost instantly. We got married yesterday. I stared at the screen. I thought maybe I'd misread it. My brain tried to rearrange the words into something that hurt less. Then another message appeared. It was small. Just special people. There it was. Not an explanation. Not an apology. A declaration. My chest tightened in a way that felt familiar. Not sharp like a sudden injury, but slow. Controlled. Intentional. Like being locked out of a room while everyone inside pretends they didn't hear you knocking. I called her before I could stop myself. She answered on the second ring. Hey, she said brightly, her voice louder than necessary. Like she wasn't alone. Like she had an audience. You saw the message. She added. It wasn't a question. Yes, I said carefully. You got married? She laughed softly, like I'd complimented her. I did. I waited. She didn't fill the silence. You didn't tell me, I said finally. Another pause. Then she sighed, but not the kind that carries regret. The kind that carries irritation. I wanted it to be intimate, she said. Only people who mattered. Only people who mattered. She said it gently, but she knew exactly how it would land. I swallowed. I see, I said. And I hung up. Not because I had nothing else to say. Because I understood something I'd spent years pretending not to understand. This wasn't an accident. It was a decision. 10 minutes later, the family group chat exploded. Photos poured in one after another. Liana in a white dress, smiling like she'd won something. Her husband beside her, a man I'd met exactly twice, and champagne glasses raised, relatives laughing, faces I recognized instantly, people who had called me dependable, responsible, strong, words that sounded like compliments but always felt like assignments. Someone wrote, beautiful ceremony. Another replied, perfect couple. Then Liana posted a photo of herself alone, holding her bouquet, looking directly into the camera. Her caption read, special people only. I locked my phone and set it face down on the table. My coffee had gone cold. I didn't drink it anyway, because humiliation isn't loud. It doesn't scream. It settles into your body quietly, like it belongs there, and this wasn't new. Not really. I had always been useful to my family. Just never necessary. When my grandfather started getting sick, everyone had reasons they couldn't help. Work was busy. Life was complicated. They lived too far away. They had responsibilities. Excuses stacked neatly on top of each other. I didn't have excuses. So I became the one who stayed. I drove him to appointments, sat beside him during treatments, learned his medications, organized his finances when he started forgetting things. I told myself it was temporary. It wasn't. It became permanent. And when he died, he left something behind. Not just money, responsibility. He named me executor of his estate, not because I asked, because I was the one he trusted to finish what he couldn't. My siblings received their shares, but I inherited the role, the paperwork, the oversight, the accountability. I became the person who said yes when bills needed to be paid, and the person who said no when requests crossed the line. That made me useful. It didn't make me loved. A week passed after the wedding. I didn't confront Liana. I didn't send emotional messages or post vague quotes online. I went to work. I attended meetings. I paid bills. I continued existing in the quiet space between obligation and invisibility. Then, one Tuesday morning, my phone rang. Her name appeared on the screen. I knew immediately this wasn't an apology. I answered anyway. She said casually. Did you pay the rent yet? I blinked. What? The rent, she repeated, irritation creeping into her voice. It's late. I stayed silent. She exhaled sharply. My landlord emailed me, she said. I just got married. I don't need this stress right now. There it was. Not concern, expectation, like my absence from her wedding hadn't changed anything, like my role remained intact. Provider, cleaner, solution. I didn't see anything, I said carefully. Well, I did, she snapped. So can you just handle it? Handle it. Like it was my responsibility. Like it always had been. 2 years earlier, she'd asked me to co-sign her apartment lease. Her credit wasn't good enough, she'd said. It was temporary, she'd said. I agreed, because I remembered my grandfather's last clear sentence. Take care of them. So I did. Every month, quietly, reliably, until now. I'll check, I said. Do it today. She replied. Then she hung up. Not thank you. Not please. Just certainty. I logged into the property portal. My name appeared exactly where I expected it to. Primary leaseholder. Payment history scrolled down the screen. Month after month. Paid. 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 Then the current month. Rejected. My stomach tightened. I clicked the details. Not insufficient funds. Not missed payment. Something else. A routing change. I leaned closer. There was a small note beneath the entry. Payment destination modified. Authorization pending. My fingers went still on the keyboard. Authorization pending. Someone had tried to redirect the payment. I opened the audit log. The timestamp was from yesterday afternoon. The requester wasn't me. It was listed under a newly added authorized user. And next to it, her name, Liana. My pulse slowed. Not faster, slower. Because panic is loud, but realization is quiet. She hadn't called because rent was late. She'd called to make sure I paid it again. My phone buzzed. A message from her. Did you send it yet? I stared at the screen, then at the audit log, then back at the screen. Something inside me shifted. Not breaking, a leaning. Because this wasn't about rent. This was about control, about access, about rewriting the story so she could move money without leaving fingerprints. I didn't reply. Instead, I scrolled deeper into the audit trail. There was a verification request, sent by mail, not to my home address, to a private mailbox downtown. My chest tightened. She wasn't just trying to redirect payments. She was trying to intercept verification itself. Trying to become me. Legally, quietly, permanently. I leaned back in my chair. For years, I had mistaken obligation for loyalty. Mistaken proximity for family. Mistaken silence for peace. But silence doesn't protect you. It protects the person hurting you. My phone buzzed again. Another message. Why are you ignoring me? I looked at her name. At the words. At the invisible line she had crossed without hesitation. Then I closed the portal. Not because I didn't care. Because I finally understood. This wasn't the first move. It was the second. And somewhere, there was a first move I hadn't seen yet. Something bigger. Something already in motion. And for the first time since the wedding, I wasn't thinking about why she excluded me. I was thinking about what she was planning next. Because people don't try to reroute your money unless they believe they're about to lose access to it. And I had a feeling. The rent wasn't the real target. The estate was. And if she was bold enough to try this, what had she already done that I hadn't discovered yet? That afternoon, as I gathered my documents and prepared to confront the property office, my phone lit up again. It wasn't Liana this time. It was a notification from the estate bank account. Unrecognized login attempt detected. And in that moment, I realized something that made the wedding betrayal feel small. She hadn't just tried to steal rent. She had tried to access everything, and she wasn't done yet. The notification stayed on my screen longer than I expected. Unrecognized login attempt detected. There was no mistaking what that meant. Someone had tried to enter the estate account using credentials that didn't belong to them. The system had blocked it automatically, but the attempt itself was recorded, time stamped, permanent, traceable. I didn't panic. Panic is reaction. This was confirmation. For years, I had lived inside a quiet assumption that family, no matter how flawed, would never cross certain lines. They might manipulate emotions. They might create guilt. They might demand things they didn't earn, but identity theft, financial impersonation, legal interference, that required intention, planning, belief in immunity. I picked up my keys, grabbed the printed audit log from my desk, and left my apartment. If someone was trying to move inside my financial identity, I needed to understand how far the property management office was only 15 minutes away. I barely noticed the drive. My mind replayed everything from the past week. The wedding, the group chat, the rent call, the routing number change, the private mailbox. Individually, each piece could be dismissed. Together, they form something else. A pattern, and patterns don't lie. When I walked into the office, the receptionist smiled automatically. "Hi, how can I help you?" "I'm the primary leaseholder for Unit 310, I said calmly. "I need to speak to the manager about unauthorized changes made to the payment account." Her smile faded slightly. She nodded and asked me to wait. 2 minutes later, a man in his 40s stepped out of the back office. His name tag read Daniel. He didn't look surprised. That was the first thing I noticed. He looked prepared. "Come with me," he said. His office was small but clean. He closed the door behind us and gestured toward a chair. "I assume this is about the routing change request," he said. So he already knew. "Yes," I replied. "I didn't authorize it." He nodded slowly, turning his monitor toward himself. "Our system flagged it immediately," he said. "That's why the payment didn't process." I set the printed audit log on his desk. "I saw that," I said. "What I need to know is how it was submitted." He hesitated, not refusing, calculating. "It was done here," he said finally. I frowned. "Here?" He nodded. "At our public terminal?" The room seemed quieter suddenly. "Yesterday afternoon," he added. "Yesterday." The same day she'd texted me about the wedding photos. The same day she'd called about rent. She hadn't been celebrating. She'd been preparing. "Did you see who submitted it?" I asked. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he opened a folder on his computer and clicked through several screens. Then he turned the monitor toward me. A scanned document filled the display. Authorization request. My name printed at the top. My signature at the bottom, except it wasn't mine. It looked like mine, but signatures are personal. They carry rhythm, pressure, movement. This one was careful, imitated, studied, forged. "She presented this," Daniel said quietly. I stared at it, not shocked, just cold. "There's more," he added. He opened another file, a photograph of my driver's license, not scanned, photographed, at an angle, like someone had taken it quickly, without permission. My chest tightened. I remembered something. 3 days ago, before the wedding, she'd hugged me unexpectedly, longer than usual. Her hand had brushed against my purse. I hadn't thought about it again, until now. "She also provided a verification address," he said. He showed me. "The same private mailbox. Everything connected. Every step deliberate. Every move quiet." "Why didn't the system accept it?" I asked. He leaned back slightly. "Because the destination account she listed didn't match any verified landlord accounts," he said. He paused. "It was a personal checking account." Her personal checking account. She wasn't trying to fix anything. She was trying to divert my payment directly to herself, and then she'd called me, pretending it hadn't been paid, so I would send it again. Twice. Once to her, once to the landlord. A clean double extraction. Unless I noticed, unless the system protected me, unless I fought back. Daniel watched my face carefully. "Do you want to file an official fraud report?" he asked. The question hung between us, because once something becomes official, it stops being family. It becomes evidence. "Yes," I said. He nodded. "Then we'll freeze all changes to the account immediately." He printed a form and slid it toward me. My pen didn't shake as I signed it, not from calm, from clarity. When I left the office, the air outside felt different, sharper. Reality had shifted from suspicion to confirmation. She hadn't acted emotionally. She had acted strategically. And strategy meant preparation, which meant there were probably steps I hadn't uncovered yet. My phone buzzed. Her name. I let it ring. Then a message appeared. "Why are you making this complicated?" I stared at the words. Complicated? Like she hadn't forged my signature. Like she hadn't impersonated me. Like she hadn't tried to redirect my money. Another message came. "You're overreacting." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was predictable. Denial is always the first defense, followed by blame, then victimhood, then escalation. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened the estate account app. Everything appeared normal. Balances intact. No transfers. No changes. But the notification remained in the alert history. Attempted login. Blocked. Time stamped. Someone had tried. Someone who believed they deserved access. Someone who believed they could take it. That afternoon, I drove to the mailbox store listed on the verification request. It was a small place wedged between a nail salon and a shipping center. Ordinary, forgettable, perfect for quiet interception. Inside, a clerk looked up. "Can I help you?" "I need to ask about certified mail delivered to a mailbox under my name," I said. She frowned slightly. "We can't give out mailbox information." "I understand," I said calmly. "But if mail addressed to me was delivered here and signed for by someone else, that's identity misuse." She hesitated, then asked for my ID. I handed it over. She typed something into her computer. Her expression changed. "There was certified mail delivered yesterday," she said slowly. My pulse stayed steady. "Was it signed for?" She hesitated again, then nodded. "Yes." "Can I see the signature?" She called the manager. He arrived a minute later. He studied my ID, listened carefully, then brought out a clipboard. He flipped to yesterday's page and turned it toward me. There it was, my name printed on the delivery line, and beneath it, her signature, clear, confident, practiced. She hadn't hidden it. She'd claimed it. Ownership without permission, authority without legality, identity without consent. "Do you have security cameras?" I asked. He nodded. "We do." I nodded back. "I may need that footage." He didn't argue, because he knew. This wasn't family drama. This was documentation. When I returned to my car, I sat there for a long time, not crying, not shaking, just thinking. For years, I had confused endurance with strength. Believed that absorbing harm made me responsible. Believed that protecting family meant protecting them from consequences. But protection without boundaries becomes permission, and permission invites escalation. My phone buzzed again. Another message from her. This time, it wasn't defensive, it was threatening. "If you don't send the rent today, I'll tell everyone what you've been hiding." I stared at it. What I've been hiding. She was building a narrative, positioning herself as victim, positioning me as villain, because stories shape perception, and perception shapes outcomes. Unless facts intervene, unless proof speaks louder, unless truth becomes undeniable. I saved the message, screenshotted it, archived it. Because she thought this was emotional. She thought this was personal. She thought this was invisible. But she was wrong. This wasn't emotional anymore. This was procedural. And procedure leaves records. Records build cases. Cases change everything. That night, I opened my grandfather's estate folder, every document organized, every transaction recorded, every distribution tracked. I had nothing to hide, which meant I had nothing to fear, except one thing: what she might try next. Because people who attempt fraud once rarely stop after failure. They adapt. They escalate. They search for new angles, new leverage, new entry points. And as I closed the folder, my phone buzzed one more time. Another notification from the probate court system. I frowned. I hadn't filed anything recently. Slowly, I opened the alert. It was a filing notice. A petition had been submitted. Case reference number included. Filed that afternoon. Petitioner name: my sister. My stomach dropped as I read the title. Petition to remove executor. She wasn't just trying to access the money anymore. She was trying to remove me entirely. Legally. Permanently. And if she succeeded, she wouldn't need my permission ever again. I stared at the filing notice, my hands perfectly still. Because this had never been about rent. It had never been about the wedding. It had been about control from the beginning, and now she wasn't hiding it anymore. She was challenging me openly, in court. But what she didn't know yet was that every forgery, every interception, every message she'd sent had already become evidence, and the moment she stepped into that courtroom, she wouldn't just be accusing me. She'd be exposing herself. The notification didn't disappear. Even after I locked my phone, even after I set it face down on the table, even after I walked away and tried to breathe, like everything was still normal. It stayed there, invisible, but permanent. A petition had been filed. Not a threat, not a warning. An action, legal, intentional. My sister wasn't trying to pressure me anymore. She was trying to replace me. I picked up the phone again and opened the court notice, forcing myself to read every word slowly. Petition to remove executor. Petitioners: Leanna Moreno Lane. Grounds: alleged mismanagement of estate funds. Alleged withholding of lawful distributions. Alleged emotional instability impairing fiduciary responsibility. Emotional instability. I almost smiled. Not because it was funny. Because it was precise. That word wasn't chosen randomly. It was chosen because it couldn't be measured easily, but it could be implied convincingly. It didn't require proof. It required suggestion. Suggestion was enough to create doubt. Doubt was enough to create delay. Delay was enough to create opportunity. And opportunity was what she wanted. I didn't call her. I didn't confront her. I did something she wouldn't expect. I called an attorney. His name was Daniel Hart, and he had helped finalize my grandfather's estate 2 years earlier. I hadn't spoken to him since the paperwork was completed. He answered on the third ring. Daniel Hart, he said. This is Elena Moreno, I replied. There was a brief pause. Of course, he said. How can I help? I didn't waste time explaining emotions. I explained facts. The estate account had an unauthorized login attempt. I said, someone forged my signature to reroute a lease payment. They intercepted certified mail. And today, they filed a petition to remove me as executor. Silence. Then his voice changed, not surprised, focused. Who filed it? He asked. My sister. Another pause. Email me everything, he said. Immediately, I forwarded the documents, screenshots, and audit logs while we stayed on the phone. He reviewed them in real time. I could hear papers shifting, keys clicking, breathing slowing. Finally, he spoke. She's not doing this impulsively, he said. I know. I replied. She's building a legal narrative. I leaned against the kitchen counter. Less. And she's hoping you'll react emotionally. He added. I understood what he meant. Emotion creates mistakes. Mistakes create vulnerability. Vulnerability creates leverage. What do we do? I asked. He didn't hesitate. We respond, he said. The next morning, I met him at his office. The building was quiet, neutral, professional. The kind of place where people solved problems that couldn't be fixed with conversations. He didn't greet me with sympathy. He greeted me with structure. He had already printed the petition, highlighted sections, annotated margins, mapped strategy. "She's accusing you of withholding distributions," he said. "I haven't," I replied. "I know," he said calmly, "but accusations don't require truth. They require timing." He slid a page toward me. "This is her filing timeline." I looked at the date. Yesterday afternoon. The same afternoon she had attempted to reroute the lease payment. The same afternoon she had signed for intercepted mail. The same afternoon she had texted me about rent. 3 actions, 1 window, 1 plan. "She's creating pressure on multiple fronts," he said. "So I lose focus," I said. "So you make mistakes," he corrected. He tapped another document. "We're going to respond with evidence," he said. He listed it clearly. Forgery attempt documentation, mail interception signature record, unauthorized login attempt alerts, threatening text messages. Every piece of proof she thought was invisible. "We'll also request protective restrictions," he added. "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means she won't be allowed to access, modify, or interfere with estate assets during review. Temporary protection. Permanent consequences, if proven." And it would be proven. Because unlike her accusations, my defense didn't rely on implication, it relied on records. 3 days later, I received the hearing notice, scheduled, mandatory appearance, courtroom 402, 80:30 a.m. I wasn't afraid. Not because I was confident, because I was prepared. Preparation replaces fear with focus. The courthouse was colder than I expected. Not physically, emotionally. Neutral walls, neutral faces, neutral systems. The law didn't care about family. It cared about evidence. Daniel met me outside the courtroom. "She'll be here," he said. It wasn't a question. Of course she would be here. This was her moment, her performance, her narrative. And right on time, she appeared at the end of the hallway, confident, composed, untouched by consequence. She wore a white blazer, symbolic, clean, innocent. Our eyes met. She smiled, not warmly, victorious, like she had already won something. Our mother stood beside her. Silent support, silent approval, silent confirmation that this wasn't just her plan. It was shared. That hurt more than I expected. Not sharply, quietly, like confirmation of something I had suspected but never wanted to prove. Liana walked closer. "Stop 2 feet away. You didn't have to make this difficult," she said softly. I didn't respond. Because there was nothing left to say outside the courtroom. She leaned slightly closer. "You can still fix it," she whispered. Fix it. Meaning surrender, meaning permission, meaning silence. I looked at her. Really looked at her. And for the first time, I didn't see my sister. I saw someone who believed she was entitled to replace me. The courtroom doors opened. The bailiff called the case. We entered. The judge didn't look emotional. He looked efficient. He reviewed documents, asked questions, expected clarity. Liana spoke first. She described me as controlling, unstable, unfair. She framed my financial responsibility as manipulation. She framed my boundaries as abuse. She framed my silence as guilt. It was convincing, because lies mixed with truth always are. Then Daniel spoke. He didn't argue emotionally. He presented evidence. Forgery documentation, mail interception signature, login attempt alerts, threatening messages, every action, every timestamp, every contradiction. The judge listened, carefully, quietly, objectively. Then he asked Liana a question she wasn't prepared for. "Did you sign for certified mail addressed to the executor?" She hesitated, just long enough. "Yes," she said. "Why?" She didn't answer immediately. Because there was no innocent answer. The judge wrote something down, then asked another question. "Did you submit authorization requests using the executor's identity?" Her confidence flickered. "No," she said. Daniel handed the judge the forged signature document. The judge compared it silently. The room felt smaller. He didn't react emotionally. He reacted procedurally. Which was worse, because procedure creates consequences, not arguments. The hearing ended without a final ruling. But it ended with something else. Temporary protective orders. Estate access restricted exclusively to me. All modification requests frozen. Formal investigation initiated. Liana's petition remained under review, but her access was blocked, her leverage neutralized, her narrative interrupted. She didn't look at me when we left the courtroom. She looked forward, still confident, still certain she could recover control, because people like her don't believe they've lost until loss becomes irreversible. And irreversible takes time. Outside the courthouse, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I opened it slowly. It contained one image, a screenshot, of the estate account login screen, and beneath it, a message. You can't protect it forever. My chest tightened, because this wasn't over. Not even close. She hadn't stopped. She had adapted. Which meant her next move wouldn't be legal. It would be desperate. That night, as I reviewed the protective order documents, another notification appeared. Not from the court. Not from the property manager. From the bank. Password reset request initiated. Not completed. Initiated. Someone was still trying. Still pushing. Still searching for a way in. And this time, I realized she might not be working alone. The password reset request came through at 9:12 p.m. I stared at the notification longer than I needed to, letting the meaning settle into something solid and undeniable. Password reset requested, not completed. Not authorized, requested. Someone had entered the estate account username and triggered the recovery process. Someone who believed they were close enough to success to risk exposure. Someone who believed pressure would break me before procedure stopped them. But procedure had already begun protecting me. Which meant whoever did this wasn't guessing blindly. They had information. Specific information. Information they shouldn't have. I picked up my phone and called the bank's fraud department immediately. After verifying my identity, the representative spoke in a careful, professional tone. Yes, Ms. Moreno, she said. There was a password reset attempt initiated earlier this evening. From where? I asked. She paused. It was attempted from a public terminal. Public terminal. Not a personal computer. Not a private network. Somewhere anonymous. Somewhere deliberate. Was it completed? I asked. No, she said. It failed identity verification. Failed. That meant they didn't have everything. Not yet. But they had enough to try. Why recommend you visit your branch in person tomorrow? She added. We'll place additional protections on the account. Additional protections. Additional confirmation that this wasn't over. The next morning, I arrived at the bank before it opened. I didn't want delays. I didn't want waiting. I wanted clarity. When the doors unlocked, I stepped inside and asked to speak with the branch manager. Her name was Rebecca Collins. She greeted me calmly, but I could see the alertness in her eyes. She already knew why I was there. Please come with me, she said. Her office was quiet and sealed off from the rest of the bank. Safe, private, controlled. She closed the door behind us and sat across from me. I've reviewed your account, she said. I waited. There were multiple failed login attempts yesterday. Multiple. Not one. Not accidental, repeated intentional. Were they all from the same location? I asked. She nodded. Less. She turned her monitor slightly toward me. From our lobby terminal. My stomach tightened. This branch? Less? Which meant whoever tried it had been here. Physically present. Standing inside this building. Attempting to become me. Do you have cameras? I asked. She nodded again. Yes. She didn't show them immediately. Instead, she studied me carefully. There's something else, she said. My chest tightened slightly. What? She reached into a folder and pulled out a printed document. She placed it on the desk between us. I recognized it instantly. A court order, or at least, something pretending to be one. It carried the formatting of authority. Case number, estate reference, executor identification. But something was wrong. The judge's signature line was blank. Only a typed name remained. No ink, no seal, no validation. This was presented yesterday, Rebecca said. My hand stayed still. Be who? I asked. She hesitated, then answered, your sister. The word didn't surprise me. The confirmation did. She claimed she had temporary authority over the estate. Rebecca continued. Temporary authority. Authority she didn't have. Authority she tried to manufacture. What did you do? I asked. We refused. Rebecca said simply. Relief didn't come, because refusal didn't stop attempts. It only delayed them. She became agitated. Rebecca added. She insisted the court had already approved it. Of course she did. Confidence is the weapon of people who believe they won't be questioned. She then attempted the password reset at our terminal. Procedure blocked her. Verification protected me. But protection doesn't stop intention. It only exposes it. May I see the camera footage? I asked. Rebecca nodded. She opened a video file and turned the monitor fully toward me. The screen showed the bank lobby. Customers entering, tellers working, normal life continuing. Then she appeared, Liana, walking confidently, purposefully. My mother behind her, watching, supporting, witnessing. Liana approached the terminal, typed slowly, carefully, paused, checked her phone, typed again. Her posture wasn't uncertain. It was rehearsed. She believed she belonged there. She believed she was entitled to access. She believed she could override reality. Rebecca paused the video. This is when she presented the document. She said. She resumed playback. I watched myself being impersonated. Watched my identity being treated like an obstacle. Watched my family attempt to erase me procedurally. Rebecca stopped the video again. We've documented everything, she said. Documentation, evidence, protection, truth. What happens now? I asked. We've restricted the account completely, she said. No changes can be made without in-person executive verification, meaning only me, only my identity, only my authority. Restored, protected, confirmed. When I left the bank, I didn't feel victory. I felt clarity. This wasn't emotional anymore. It wasn't personal. It was structural. She wasn't trying to hurt me emotionally. She was trying to replace me legally. Emotion was just the distraction. Control was the objective. My phone buzzed. A message from her. You're making this worse than it needs to be? I stared at it. Worse. Like I had done something wrong. Like protecting myself was betrayal. Another message appeared. You don't deserve all of it. There it was. Not concern. Not fairness. Deserve. She believed inheritance was ownership. She believed responsibility was theft. She believed entitlement was justice. I didn't reply. Because she wasn't trying to communicate. She was trying to destabilize. Destabilization creates mistakes. Mistakes create openings. I wasn't giving her one. That afternoon, Daniel called me. The bank contacted me. He said. Of course they did. They confirmed attempted impersonation. He continued. I leaned back in my chair. Is that enough? I asked. For what? He replied. To stop her? He paused, then answered carefully. It's enough to change everything. Everything. Legal standing, narrative credibility, judicial perception. She hadn't just accused me anymore. She had exposed herself. When is the next hearing? I asked. Soon, he said. His voice carried something new. Confidence. Not emotional confidence. Strategic confidence. Ring everything, he added. I already plan to. Every message, every alert, every record. Because truth isn't loud. It's precise. And precision wins. That night, I sat alone in my apartment. Not afraid. Not angry. Just aware. Aware of what she'd risked. Aware of what she'd exposed. Aware of what came next. My phone buzzed again. Another message. But this time it wasn't from her. It was from my bank. New device enrollment attempt blocked. New device. Not terminal, device. Personal, persistent. She wasn't stopping, she was escalating, and escalation always leads to one of two outcomes: success or exposure. She had already chosen. She just didn't realize which one was coming. The next morning, I received a voicemail from an unfamiliar number. I played it once, then again. It was her voice. Calm, confident, certain. "You should check the court records," she said. I'm not asking anymore. She wasn't asking, she was announcing. And when I opened the court portal and saw the new filing she'd submitted overnight, my stomach dropped. Because she hadn't just challenged my authority. She'd accused me of committing a crime. I didn't open the court portal immediately. I sat there for a full minute, staring at the notification like it might change if I gave it time. It didn't. New filing submitted. Petitioner Liana Moreno Lane. Motion title: Emergency Petition for Immediate Suspension of Executor Authority due to financial misconduct. Financial misconduct, not instability this time, not emotional language, criminal language, precise, deliberate, escalated. She wasn't trying to remove me quietly anymore. She was trying to destroy my credibility permanently. I opened the document. Every word was familiar in tone, but sharper in accusation. She claimed I had concealed estate funds, claimed I had manipulated financial records, claimed I had abused my position. No evidence attached, just statements. Statements designed to trigger reaction, reaction designed to trigger mistakes, mistakes designed to create justification. Except she had made one mistake of her own. She had acted too visibly, too aggressively, too late, because now, every move she made existed inside a documented pattern: forgery, mail interception, impersonation attempts, counterfeit court order presentation, bank login attempts, and now this. False criminal accusation. She hadn't strengthened her case. She had exposed her intent. I called Daniel immediately. She filed an emergency suspension petition. I said. He didn't sound surprised. I saw it. He replied. Of course he had. They scheduled a review hearing for this afternoon. This afternoon, fast, urgent, reactive, exactly how emergency filings worked. She's trying to force immediate action before her previous actions catch up to her. He added. So what do we do? I asked. He didn't hesitate. We show the judge everything. Everything. Not emotion, not defense, truth. The courtroom felt different that afternoon, heavier, more focused. Because now, this wasn't just a dispute. It was escalation. The judge entered, reviewed the filings, then looked directly at me, then at her. Liana sat confidently, composed, certain. She believed urgency favored her. She believed aggression created advantage. She believed confidence created truth. The judge spoke first. This court has received an emergency petition requesting immediate suspension of executor authority. He paused. Petitioner alleges financial misconduct. He turned toward her. Do you have supporting evidence? She stood smoothly. Yes, Your Honor, she said. Her voice steady, convincing. She's been hiding information, she said. She's been controlling everything. Control again. Her favorite word. She framed responsibility as manipulation, authority as abuse, silence as guilt. She finished speaking and sat down, confident, certain. Daniel stood next. He didn't speak immediately. He handed the judge a folder. Thick, organized, complete. What is this? The judge asked. Chronological documentation of impersonation attempts, forged authorization submissions, intercepted mail, counterfeit court document presentation, and unauthorized estate access attempts by the petitioner, Daniel said calmly. The courtroom went quiet. Not emotionally quiet. Procedurally quiet. The judge opened the folder, reviewed the first document, forgery record, second document, mail interception signature, third document, bank incident report, fourth document, camera still images, fifth document, threatening messages, 6. Document. Counterfeit court order copy. Each page replaced accusation with evidence. Each page replaced narrative with fact. The judge looked up at Liana. Her confidence flickered for the first time. "Did you present this document to the bank?" he asked, holding up the counterfeit order. She hesitated, just for a second. "No," she said. Daniel stepped forward. "The bank has confirmed the presentation," he said. "They have surveillance footage." The judge's expression didn't change, but his perception did. He turned another page. "Did you sign for certified mail addressed to the executor?" he asked. She hesitated again. "Yes," she admitted. "Why?" No answer. "Because there wasn't one that helped her." The judge closed the folder slowly, deliberately. Then he spoke. "This court finds no evidence supporting the petitioner's emergency claims." Relief didn't hit immediately, because he wasn't finished. He continued. "However, this court has received credible documentation suggesting possible fraud, forgery, and impersonation attempts." Liana's posture changed, not dramatically, subtly, confidence shifting into uncertainty. "The emergency petition is denied," he said. Denied, one word, permanent, structural, final. But he continued. "This matter is referred for formal investigation." Investigation, not accusation. Procedure, truth verified structurally, not emotionally. Outside the courtroom, she finally looked at me directly, not confident anymore, not victorious, calculating, trying to understand when control had shifted, trying to understand when certainty had collapsed. "You didn't have to do this," she said quietly. I looked at her calmly. "I didn't," I replied. "You did. Truth doesn't require volume, it requires accuracy." She didn't respond, because she understood. For the first time, she had lost narrative control, and narrative control had been her only weapon. 3 weeks later, the investigation concluded. Forgery confirmed. Impersonation attempts confirmed. Fraudulent document presentation confirmed. Formal charges filed. Not dramatic, not theatrical, procedural, precise, permanent. She wasn't arrested publicly. She wasn't humiliated theatrically. She was processed. Legally, quietly. Consequences rarely look dramatic. They look administrative, which is worse, because administration creates permanence. The court issued final orders. I remained executor. Estate protection strengthened. Contact restrictions implemented. She could no longer interfere, legally, structurally, permanently. Months passed. Silence returned. Not forced silence, real silence, peaceful silence. The kind that exists when manipulation disappears. The kind that exists when obligation ends. For the first time in years, my phone didn't buzz with requests. Didn't buzz with pressure. Didn't buzz with expectation. Because expectation had always been the heaviest burden, not responsibility, entitlement. And entitlement only survives when permitted. I had stopped permitting it. One afternoon, I visited my grandfather's grave. Not out of obligation. Out of closure. I stood there quietly. Not sad, not angry, just finished. Because inheritance was never about money. It was about trust. And trust had been tested, not broken, proven. I hadn't protected money, I had protected truth. And truth had protected me back. Weeks later, I received one final notification. Not from her. Not from court. Not from the bank. From the property management office. Lease responsibility removed. Fully transferred. Her responsibility now. Fully. Alone. I stared at it for a moment. Not satisfied. Not bitter. Just aware. Because for the first time in her life, she was responsible for herself. And responsibility had always been the one thing she couldn't manipulate. I never heard from her again, not because she disappeared, because she lost access to my identity, access to my authority, access to my protection, access to the version of me that believed family couldn't become a threat. She taught me something important. Not about betrayal, about clarity, because betrayal doesn't destroy you. It reveals people. And once people reveal themselves clearly, You stop protecting who they used to be and start protecting who you are. And sometimes, the most powerful moment isn't when someone tries to take everything from you. It's when they realize they can't take anything anymore.